say if you're having fun with something, it doesn't feel like work, right? You're having fun with it, and then it tends to turn out pretty good. So I'm pretty excited myself in welcoming the panel today. I'd like to make a note to everybody who expected to see Francine Parham on our panel today. We had a last-minute health issue come up, which she needed to take care of, and we wish her all the best with that and for her to get well soon. But she did ask me to send her apologies to her co-panel members, and as well as those who expected to hear from her today. Yes, so Boardroom Buddhas. The title was meant to be provocative or bring more to awareness those folks that we meet in our day-to-day workplaces that we feel brings that enlightened self to the role within that organization. So this is why we invite folks to come and talk to us and create a space for people to ask questions and so forth. Today's topic is Women Rise Up. How do we uplift and support women of color in the workplace? This is just one teeny tiny topic in a series of talks we've already been having, and it just keeps bringing up more and more content for us to address. Yes, so I'm a talker. Sarah, my co-host, I've assigned her the job of keeping me from going rambling on and on and on, because I tend to do that. So yes, I'm excited to be here. I bring 20 plus years in corporate space to the talks. Through that experience, it has generated some gaps that I personally experienced and felt. And so those are the topics or those gaps that we want to address, or bring up topics that we don't typically get to talk about openly. So that's the whole point behind Boardroom Buddhas. I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to hand it over to Sarah, and we'll get going here in a minute. Sarah.
Thank you, Ida. I'm Sarah Waske. I'm not sure if I've really introduced myself much on the show before, but I'm a CPA and have been working in public accounting for 21 years. So I also have a lot of experience in the corporate world, more on the small business side of it too. So I think we have a little bit, Ida has a little more of the larger corporate experience, and I'm a little bit more on the smaller side. So, but I am so excited for this conversation today. Our panelists, I'm going to introduce in a minute, but they are amazing women. And the way that I met these women is in the last couple of years, I have made a very conscious effort to fill my life with diversity. I took a look at my life one day and I just realized I'm surrounded by women that are just like me. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's more to life than that. So I made this effort to do this. And since I opened myself up to that, women have just been coming up and showing up in my life that have just changed me forever. My life is so much more enriched, and seeing other perspectives and just knowing these women have made me a better person. So I am so grateful for that. So I met Ingrid by chance through an event we were at together. And as soon as I talked to her, it was just like, okay, you and we got to know each other. So then we ended up getting in a mastermind group together. And then Vernice, I actually met you first on one of Judd's shows that he did, your Louisville Evolutionaries. And then we were able to talk on another program. So as soon as her and I talked, we're like, okay, we got to get together and meet up. So we've done that. So both amazing women. And that's the way I met Ida as well. I mean, she's fabulous. It just blows my mind. So let's do quick introductions. Ingrid, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and then we will move to Vernice to introduce herself. Oh.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay.
There you go.
So my name is Ingrid Martinez. I was born in Havana, Cuba. I came to the United States 19 years ago last week. with a civil engineering degree from my country, and a lot of dreams. And I have experience in the corporate world, and I also have experience as a small business owner, because last year in January, I founded my consulting firm with my partner, that she's here too. And what we do is that we realize that all the government agencies, they want to do business with minorities, but minorities are not aware in most cases of that. And even then, their company, they don't have the infrastructure to do that. And that's the type of consulting that we do. So we identify the opportunities for them, and we manage the bids from the beginning until the completion of the project. So I've been a business owner full time for almost a year. And I think that's it for now.
Thank you. Vernice?
Hello, I am Vernice Mitchell, and I am a registered nurse by profession. By definition, I'm a positive force of energy. And so I like to empower women. I am the founder of Women of Intent, which is a non-for-profit organization aimed at helping women be intentional about their life, their purpose. And we provide small group meetings that we call soul sessions, spreading our wisdom, which is a facilitator-run sessions. I call it a support group for women behind the role, women behind the title, just women, period. And so I have 3 daughters that I love. So even my dog is female. So I think that God wanted me to pay attention to women because I have 2 granddaughters as well. And so empowering women to enrich their lives is a passion of mine, to speak life into women. We've been having our soul sessions since November of 2018. And so we're headed into our 2nd year. And it's just a space for women to relate, renew, and release. And so that's me, Vernice Michelle.
Wow. Well, thank you, ladies, both so much for being here. I just want to do a quick overview of a couple things, and then I'm going to hand it off to Ida to get the questions started for the panel. But so there's a great website called catalyst.org, and they have a lot of stats and research about women in the workforce and women of color in the workforce. And so their research has found that leaders who embraced a more holistic view of diversity, equity, and inclusion can build a more innovative and collaborative workforce, which is associated with increased productivity and better business results. So we know that having diversity in your workplace is better business all around in all areas. And so how do we do that? How do we have a more inclusive workforce? How do we promote and encourage and bring women into more leadership roles within these organizations? And a couple quick stats just to kind of get a little frame of reference. So this is just our population, and they're predicting that women of color will be the majority of all women in the United States by the year 2060. So currently, white women make up 60.3%, and they're projected to be 44.3% in 2060. Hispanic or Latino women are currently 17.8%, and they predict 27% in 2060. Black or African American women are currently 13.7%, and that's predicted to be 15%. And then Asian are currently at 6.1%, and they predict that to be 9.5%. So, I mean, the biggest jump is going to be in the Hispanic and Latina area for women. You can see that's a pretty significant jump over the next 40 years. Judd, could you go to the next one? So this is about the wage gap for women of color. So Black women working full-time earn on average 62 cents for every dollar that white non-Hispanic men make. Latinas working full-time only earned 54 cents for every dollar that white non-Hispanic men are earning. And then Asian women, they earned 90 cents for every dollar, but there's different subsets of the Asian. So some of them are earning a lot less, and then some of them are earning a lot more. So with that, just to give a little perspective of where women of color are in these areas, I am going to throw it back to Ida so she can get us started with some panel discussion.
Gosh. Yeah, there's little tidbits in there that can become an entire conversation by itself, because I'm only now reading this with you, Sarah. And yeah, so definitely want to touch on points on your slides as we move forward with the conversation for sure. I chose this one comic strip that was cut out of a South African newspaper and sent to me by my ex-father-in-law. And let's dig in a little with this particular comic strip, where this woman's holding up this Happy International Women's Day sign, but at the same time looking at those in power and saying, but hold on, by assigning this day to women, we also feel at the same time that in and of itself it's oppressing as a woman to have one day out of the 364 days assigned to women. What happens to the rest of the time, right? It should be Women's Day every day. And so bringing the awareness of celebrating and honoring women at the same time can be seen as oppressing by highlighting the fact that we are not equal. So having said that, a response would be, but that's how we empower women. The word empower holds a lot of stuff in it, because as a woman, I can take the role of the person holding up the sign and saying, as a woman, you are saying, by empowering me, it sounds like you are giving me something that I don't already have, okay? So I need you to give me a feeling of empoweredness or self-empowerment to validate me, right? On the other hand, I could say, but that's how the structure that we build out here, the systems and the programs we build out here, create spaces for women to step in and feel empowered. I don't know if I made sense running through that. But for me, as a woman, I think it is reminding me of my power as opposed to giving me permission to feel empowered, right? That's the key difference. And depending on what perspective you are going to take. So as professional, successful women out in the workplace, are you creating spaces, one, for empowering spaces for women to step into and occupy? And two, are we reminding women that they already have the power? So that opens up my first question, which is, I would like the both of you to tell us how in your business practice, in your professional world, are you reminding women that they already have the power? I think Ingrid's description of their business does something to that effect, where they go to these minority businesses and said, hey, did you know that there's a space here where you can grow, that you can step into and leverage to grow to the next level. So I get how that is definitely part of your practice and what you do. But can you think of other things that you do specifically in your professional spaces which reminds women, right? Sometimes we are reminded, like Venice, she introduced herself as a powerful, positive force. Sometimes we don't have a choice. Just being in someone's presence who's like that, it wakens that up in you by itself, right? It's a resonance, it's a vibration, it's energy that communicates without words. But I'd like to hear what we can do as professional women out here to uplift women of color specifically, in reminding them that they already have the power. I'm going to open it up. What comes up for you, Ingrid?
I want to go back to the cartoon a little bit, because that's a very I wouldn't say problematic, but controversial issue, because to me, one of the principles of my life is personal responsibility. And based on that principle, one of the favorite quotes that I have, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said it, nobody can offend me without my permission. And that applies to everything, right? But so that's how I try to live my life. But that doesn't mean that there are structures in place that are no woman friendly. So to me, I always feel like my position is always in between, because on one side I have the personal responsibility for my own life and for my own life, pretty much. And on the other side, there are the oppression structures that we all know about, starting with the salary gap that I didn't know that for Latinas, it was 54%. That was depressing. That was really depressing. So what I do as a business has to do with empowering minorities. And but the thing to me is that the only way we can change our surroundings is by changing ourselves. So first, I have to be empowered. And to me, the decision to have my own business, despite all the fear and all the doubts and everything, that was an empowering position. And if I can raise somebody in the process, that's amazing for me. And I come from the corporate world too, and I really had a hard time with my career, and that's one of the reasons why I decided that I had to have my own business so I can call the shots. So to me, that's another act of empowerment.
Yeah.
So if we can be a good example for people and show people that, not show the people the way, because nobody can show anybody the way. Everybody has their own path in life. But if you can show people that it can be done with your actions and with your business, that's how we get like momentum in society.
Absolutely. Yeah, good stuff. Denise, what's coming up for you?
Well, I agree with everything that Ingrid said, but I just want to add that, we have the power within us already. And so when I try to, on a personal level, tap into the individual, every individual woman that I speak to, especially minorities. I have them tap into the power that is within them, so that then can awaken. They just need someone to show them. Just for an example, I'm an example type of person. There was a young lady, and I would just watch her, and I just told her, I see you. And by me saying those words, I see you, 3 words, she has now gone back to school. She has now, started her not-for-profit. So people, women especially, they just need someone to see them and agree with the power that is already in them and shine a light on the darkness, so then that can then illuminate the power that is within them. And so I think that if we start to see people as individuals and just saying those 3 words, I see you, that alone gives power to purpose, and then they can move in that pathway on that journey of reaching their purpose. And so I try to do that with every interaction that I have within business, within life, period.
Wow. So I get now what you mean by that positive power. Like, you do not have a choice. Okay. I'm not sure what you are telling yourself inside there, but you're not fooling me. Step up. I love that so much. Yes. And it's an infectious thing, right? It's an infectious thing. If you even just witness it happen from one person to another, just in the background, you cannot help but be affected. That vibe, that's energy moving. And so the idea, again, behind this kind of thing is because it was a conversation between Sarah and I where there was resonance in the sacred feminine. And my take was, I don't know about you, Sarah, but I'm feeling this powerful female, effeminate wisdom waking up, not just in women, but especially in women. And especially in women, specifically of color, because it was not an easy road to get to where you are. Every single step of the way, you had to bob and weave. You had to face the ultimate reality of this male dominant space that you found yourself in, world, right? And you navigated that, and you got to a point where we now look at you and go, girl, you need to come, I don't know what you're drinking, but share with us the Kool-Aid, right? And so I know for a fact as we speak that whoever's listening in is feeling that same power within them. I have, however, found with my personal circle of friends, as we are having these conversations, folks tend to get stuck in this awakening place. That I can feel this energy going, and I feel like I need to move, but I don't know what. What does it look like? Blah, 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 blah. All the questions that come up. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to take it to our next question. Unless Laura, Justin, Sarah, Tempe, if you guys want to jump in with a question or a remark, or what comes up for you, we can certainly go there. Just hit the raise hand button on your little toolbar, and Judd will alert us if you want to jump on in. But the second question to our panel.
I wanted to jump in there, Ida, if I can.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That was so exciting. Like, Bernice, when you said that, one of the, in the sacred masculine, sacred feminine, one of the ways they talk about that is the sacred masculine is like the sun. It has the power to shine light on Mother Earth, the sacred feminine. And when it shines, the earth blossoms. And so if you get into and then when the sun sees the blossoming of the earth, it shines brighter. And so you get into this, and I think that principle could be really powerful for us to know the power of witnessing, seeing, shining light on all those images, Bernice, when you talked about that, and I do think that is the power of the sacred masculine. And again, we have both of those, the capacity of both of those within us. But the ability to witness, to see, to shine light on allows the earth and the feminine to just blossom. And then when you get into that feeling like, oh my gosh, I love you blossoming, I love witnessing you, then the feminine gets excited about that, right? So you get into this incredible, and I think that's the transformation of the world right there, the masculine, the feminine responding to each other. Anyway, so Vernice, that just sent me in all kinds of great places. So thanks.
Yeah,
I'm done.
To our panel and everyone else listening in, you know, Judd is under strict orders to listen during the Boardroom Buddha Wednesdays, okay? But when he cannot help himself and he responds that way, you know we're doing something right. I just wanted to give kudos there. So thank you. My next question is going to be, how, as a woman of color, not only challenged in the workspace, but just in general, in your familial spaces, in your friendship circles, in navigating the world in terms of where and what do you think those experiences has shaped within you to bring you to become who you are today?
I think that people grow on their challenging situations. We don't grow in times of like calm. We grow in times of challenging situations. So in my case, when I came to the States with a degree in engineering, engineering is a very male-oriented career in general. And it was really hard for me to even get a job in that field. So that took me in so many different routes. Like I have background in education, I have background in international sales, I have background in small businesses, I have background in marketing. And like, while I was living through that process in my life, like I was questioning that, like, right? Like I was like, why am I going in so many different directions? But when I started my business, I realized that that was the experience that I needed, because that's what makes me become a well-rounded business owner, because I have so many different experiences. So in my case, the lack of career opportunities in my field made me become this person that can do so many things that is perfect for my business right now. So sometimes we question the path, but there is always behind it that sometimes we don't even know what's gonna be. And I like, when I opened my business and I started working on it, I was like, this all makes sense. Like, this is why. So so you just have to do whatever it takes. You have to do whatever it takes, and that's what I did.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Ingrid, mine is the opposite. You know, being in nursing, I am in a female-dominated industry, and so I sort of have become, in the past, complacent and comfortable because I was so comfortable. You know, women, that's what we do, but like I said, that there is something within us that pulls us to want to be greater, want to do greater. And either we make a decision in our mind to either agree or disagree with that is calling us to do more and to be more. And so for me, I had to move beyond the labels that limited my mindset, and also step out of my comfort zone, because I just feel that within our comfort zone, we don't grow. And so expanding the line of comfort for me has allowed me to discover more within myself as a minority woman. and to break the limits off of my life, and to want to see and do more than I ever thought before. So removing those labels expanded my experiences in business and in life. And so we had the opposite experience.
But the same result.
But the same result. The same result, trying to get out of that comfort zone. And it is leading me on a path to discover the more possibilities that are within me that to share with the world.
Absolutely. Sarah, what has your experience been? I mean, the financial industry could also be seen as male dominated. I mean, I've done talent acquisition to the financial industry. A part of what I did was specifically focus on minorities, diversity, career changes, right? So it's taking somebody's mindset from being, let's say, a registered nurse for the last 15 years and introducing them into the financial industry. So that's a huge transition that requires a certain kind of mindset to set you up successfully for that change. But having said that, your career has been in that kind of space, right, from the get-go, as I understand it. What's your experience been?
Well, I think for most of my career, I was not really aware that there was a problem. I think I was just not, I wasn't educated. I was blind, I think. I was conditioned to think this is kind of just the way it is and to accept it. And then later in life, I started opening my eyes and just educating myself on the difference between being a man and a woman and what benefits that has for you. So then I started to examine where I've worked, my career path, how that's affected my life. And, I don't regret any part of my life, but I do want to learn from it. And so, just stopping my career, my career got halted a lot when I had kids. I mean, I made the choice, but it was a choice that it was almost like I was conditioned to make, that I'm the one that's going to take time off and raise my kids. I'm the one that's going to take the pay cut. I'm the one that's going to sacrifice my career. My ex-husband owned his own businesses, so he worked all the time. And that was just something that I accepted. I don't regret any of that time with my children, but at the same time, I'm a little frustrated that slowed my career down in that way. So yeah, I think, we all experience it different. And I think what the conversation needs to be about is questioning all of those norms that we've just accepted as okay. Women take a big hit when they have children. That's young women, when they start off, young women and young men, their pay gap is not as great. But it starts to increase when women start having children. Then that's what really starts to increase. And then men actually get a bump when they have kids. It's like almost, they get a bonus for having kids, and women get penalized for having kids. And then later in life, it just keeps growing. So that gap grows as women get older. So how do we balance that? How do men share the load of not only the actual taking care of children, but the financial hit that people take because we have kids? So these are the conversations that need to happen. But a question that I have is, how are women of color in particular affected more than just women in general? Because women of color have more challenges than white women. We all know we have privileges just of being white. So I'm curious, Bernice and Ingrid, what have you experienced that is even more of a challenge? You have more things to face than white women do in the workforce.
It's interesting. No, go ahead, Bernice.
No. Well, I just wanted to just say that just as a Black woman in leadership, I just feel that our voice has to be, we have to work harder for our voice to be heard, you know, and for our knowledge base to be understood, you know. And so I think that the struggle to be heard is definitely and to be seen, you know, as a scholarly person, you know, to go out and have to get all the degrees and all of that, just to have an equal with someone that does not have the same knowledge base. And so I would say being heard and being seen are a struggle within the workforce for that I have seen myself personally. And the pay gap, you know, just being a minority woman, as opposed, you know, just in, like I said, in healthcare, it is a woman dominated business. But being a minority woman, we see a deficit that is much more prominent. And so I would like to see that change. That's something that I would personally, the struggle to be heard, to be seen as a leader within the workforce.
I completely shared that experience with you, Bernice. When I was in the corporation, it was exactly my experience. And at the time, I wasn't even aware of the gap, which is like I didn't have any idea, you know. And going back to what Sarah was talking about, your experience was exactly my experience. I was having a conversation with my son yesterday, where he's 23 years old, and he was telling me like how much he has seen me grow in the last 4 years. That he says, you're growing at 1,000 miles per hour. And and it is very true, but it's like I feel like I have to make up for that time that I dedicated to raise them. And like you, Sarah, I don't regret any of that. They are beautiful human beings. I wouldn't change that time, but I feel like now I have to make up for that time.
Mm-hmm.
And the cards are against us, pretty much.
I'm going to challenge that last line right there.
No, yes, you can challenge it, yeah.
I gotta do it because, right. I hear what you're saying in terms of the whole empowering thing, which is what that slide was to kick us off, right? So yes, the structures, systems, programs out there isn't how, they're not there enough to empower or have women feel they can step into their own power, right? But at the same time, I feel like, again, doing this whole talent acquisition and focusing on minorities the past few years in my career, I have found that women, and there's a study done on this that says that women tend to need to be 100% sure before they pull that trigger, whereas men need only 20% and they squeeze the trigger. And I added the squeeze pull in there. The study didn't actually use that terminology, but in my head, that is the difference between embodying all of who you are and your own power, and responding from a condition. Okay, so having said that, I think the cards are exactly how they should be right now for change to happen right now. And we should not expect anything less. It is time that we step and embody our power so that we can step into a workplace and say, I'm going to teach you how to treat me. We can't just wait for those spaces to come into our world for us to then step in. We've got to be the change we want to see. So we need to step into these spaces with the expectation that I am going to grow with this organization, that there is a path for me here, that there is camaraderie and mentoring and what I need, not only to grow this organization as part of their team, but also to grow myself and what's important to me, right? Would you agree with that? Any thoughts? What's coming up for y'all?
Laura, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to share something. My head is full. This is all amazing stuff. So if this doesn't come out clear, just roll with me. I'm married to a woman and have been with a woman for 16 years. It wasn't till probably the last 6 years of being in corporate for 20 some years that I decided to step into my authenticity and to show up. And it wasn't until that time did I really learn what empowerment was about. And it was a VP that took me under her wing. So you talk about rising up. She took me under her wing, and she was the first person that empowered me to think about who I got to be, not what I had to do. And that's now what I do, is I really think about empowering any individual, male or female, in, you know, who do you get to be so that you can do the things you want to do? I think we're really missing that be part, right? And I just listen to all of this and I think to myself, how stifled I was for so long, how I felt as if I spoke up as a gay woman, that I would be seen as a feminist and I would be too powerful and too hard and too abrupt, you know. And I'm sure a lot of that was in my own head, because once I actually got through it, I saw how receptive people were to me. But I also saw the change in how I was received by some people.
How the world responded to you showing up.
Correct. Now, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And it's like, it's amazing how empowered I feel, but it's not about empowered as a sense of something was missing. That woman who took me under her wing basically said, let's unbecome who you've become, and go back to that person that you were born as. And now I have a contract. I'm a joyful, connected, visionary woman. And that's empowerment. So that's how Bernice pretty much started introducing herself, was that's empowerment. But I had to go back to, you know, get rid of all those interpretations and all those beliefs that I had formed that weren't serving me. So that was, you know, that to me is empowerment.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I love this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a Buddhist practice that speaks to neti neti. It isn't this, it isn't this, it is. So it's, if you take a piece of rock and you have an artist carve out a statue, they take away what isn't the statue.
Right,
So they
right.
chip away what isn't really you to expose the beauty in that piece of rock, right, as an artist. And so I believe our experiences, even those crummy ones, right? Oh, I've been in many bathrooms crying at work, people, right? So even those moments were moments where you chip away and say, no, this isn't me. This isn't a fit for me. This isn't working for me. And honor that by going through it to grow from it, which is what Sarah was speaking to. It wouldn't change anything, but it certainly has told you who you are not. Until what's left is who you really are. And the thing is, I think you are already it. It's the, who do I want to be? You already that if you just be, right? Would you agree? Ladies,
Yeah,
you're nodding your head. I can hear you. Talk to me.
I think this is the perfect timing to to share my favorite quote. It's funny because that's exactly my favorite quote is about that. So if you just give me a second, I'm gonna share it. And this is my favorite quote ever. Sometimes I share it with people and they don't get it because they feel like it's incomplete.
Yeah.
And to me, the power of that quote is exactly that it's incomplete, so you can complete it with your own life. and with your own becoming, and with your own unbecoming, because sometimes, most of the times, it's about unbecoming what we were told to become. So this this quote is the quote that I wanted to share, and it's exactly about that the beauty of life is that we can come into our power at any moment. We just have to decide that. So
that's beautiful. And I think it's just a fundamental truth, right? That quote simply captures it from what, and with those words. But again, Laura experienced it through her vision 6 years ago, right? Sarah experienced it through her perspective. So it's a universal truth, I believe. We have a question on Facebook that I'm gonna let Judd throw on you. Oh, sorry, hold on. Maybe I do have it. Let me read it out to you. What are some ways I can best support my coworkers who are women of color? I know they are often in situations at work where they are the only person of color. I'm going to throw that out to our panel, and whoever wants to jump in, please feel free.
I think that it only takes one person to show that they care for the rest of the people to care. So I don't know, being a partner to that person, helping that person get their voice heard, helping that person in a project. Because I have multiple examples of the things that can happen when only one person cares, the difference that it can make in somebody else's life. And sometimes we don't, or people don't, they are not aware of how a big influence they can be in for other persons. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that speaking up, it goes back to if you see something, say something. And so, in being silent when you see someone not being treated fairly, then you are agreeing with that mistreatment. And so, just having the strength to be in agreement with the person that is not being treated fairly. That is just a life lesson, and so, and like Ingrid said, it just takes one person to stand up. And it may be that other people are seeing the disparity and the wrong that is being done, but they too are not wanting to speak up. Does that make sense? And so, it's just takes that one person to say, I'm going to be the person to stand in the gap and not be the person's voice, but help them express their own voice.
Right. Well, any other thoughts on that? Anyone?
I think also just paying attention at work, like really paying attention to how people are being treated. I saw something just this week about, especially with all of everything that's in the news right now that's going on around us. How are we at work? How are we treating our coworkers? And there was one example of a boardroom. So the CEO basically had someone write down and observe how the dynamic of the board meeting went. How many times were, women of color, people of color asked to do things that were in a serving way, like going to get coffee or going to get lunch, or how many times were people talked over, or, their ideas were just cut short, or, like those types of things that we just have to start being aware of how we actually are treating people and how all of those biases are showing up. So, and that's something I am really learning, because I have so many of those biases that I wasn't even aware of. So absolutely, I think just being aware is a big step.
All right, well, let's jump into our next question. I may be skipping one or two here, but let's see. During this time of social unrest, a pandemic, and total disruption of schedules, where women now not only do their day job, but they've had to really encompass mom, homeschool teacher, the cook, plus running their workspace. How have you sort of managed to keep balance going in your world? And are you running into some spots where you are struggling? What do you do when you struggle?
I'm still here. I'm sorry, I'm at work, and so for myself,
Struggling?
I never stopped working because I am in healthcare, and so it did add on an extra stress for myself because I am front line, everything. Also on the front line when it comes to the injustice that is being put in the forefront today. And so I just want to, add this tidbit that self-care has been very important, an important practice that I have had to implement on a regular, consistent basis. And that also includes therapy as a part of self-care. And so being in those spaces to be able to release my thoughts and emotions have been very vital to me moving forward, with the unrest that's going on in our city, our country, our world, and, with the pandemic. And so self-care and also therapy as a part of self-care, I promote that for everyone.
I completely second Bernice on that. The only thing I will add to it is compassion. Compassion toward yourself and everybody else. Because we are going through difficult times. Everybody is. And you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be kind to yourself. If there are days that you feel that you cannot give it 100% and you can only give it 80%, you have to be kind to yourself, because there are so many emotions that we are all going through. So I completely second Bernice, self-care, therapy too, and compassion toward yourself, and take a break is you need to. And in my case, creating different spaces at home to work, it was also something that I did. I think I have moved through 3 places in the house and sometimes outside too, just to feel like I'm in a different space, because it's been challenging this month that we have been through.
Absolutely. Sarah, what has this experience been like for you? Because you check all those boxes too, right? And then some. And then some. Sarah has just been inducted as NABO's president. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That's not another hat, right? Now you're a small business owner, you're a mother, you're a housekeeper, you're a cook, you're the driver, right? All of that. How have you been keeping it all going?
Oh, wow. I've been really lucky. I haven't lost my job. I've had the flexibility to work from home. My kids are older, so that, they're able to teach themselves. I just haven't had a lot of the struggles that a lot of people have had. And I'm grateful for that. I really am. It hasn't been easy. I'm not going to say that. It's been stressful and frustrating. And but what I really loved about it is that I've learned and have been exposed to so many beautiful things that I was not when I was just in my day-to-day routine of going to work every day and just going through the motions, taking kids to school, to soccer, to, you know, rushing to get dinner, like all of those things that you don't stop and notice things. So I'm grateful for this time to do a lot of work. I think I've grown more in the last few months exponentially than I have before that. So I'm grateful for that too. But so the COVID segue, I wanted to bring up another statistic. And Judd, can you pull there's another graphic that I have on there. And this is the graphic about the low wage workforce. And so women of color represent almost half of the low wage workforce. Just women of color, not women, women of color, half of the low wage workforce. So Black women represent 18% of all low wage workers, Latinas 24%, and Asian, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander are 7%. So I think that COVID has affected women of color really hard because there are so many that are working in these low wage jobs that are considered essential. And so they still have to go to work, but they didn't have childcare. Their kids are at home. So like they've been faced with extra challenges and that's just really frustrating. So I don't know how that's solved, but how do we support them and how do we, I don't know. I just wanted to bring this up. This is this kind of blew my mind that women are affected so greatly whenever we have these types of events, these types of stresses on our economy and that thing. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
The challenges in the Latino community, they have been great throughout this time because imagine having the kids in your house having to be a teacher and English is not your first language, you know. I cannot even imagine myself being in that position because I have the privilege that I speak English and I can teach my kids, but I cannot even like imagine how difficult that has been for the parents and for the kids too. So, yeah.
So let's reframe that question by asking it this way. Maybe. If we had an audience of people who are leaders in their workplaces right now, if they were listening in on this conversation, and they hear and they look at these stats and they hear your question, Sarah, if we framed it this way, what can that specific leader do where they at that would sort of bring some relief, immediate relief to women of color in their space, on their teams, in their organizations? I read on a Facebook feed several times over from African American women that said, we are not okay. Just because you don't hear from us does not mean we're doing okay. Reach out and ask me how I'm doing. Is that something practical? Could that be considered something practical where you have, to the Facebook question that came up, what can I do in my own space, let's say as a man or as a person who's white, who recognize that in my immediate vicinity on my team, there are women of color that might be facing challenges that I'm not even aware of. How can I help? What can I do without being offensive without seeming like I'm coming to the rescue, but just to create a space to support and uplift those people on my team.
Well, I think that it goes back to the 3 words that I said at the beginning. I see you. I think that there is a disparity in the wage gap, and it's so in depth that not one thing is going to fix it. It's multiple layers of things that need to be fixed within our system, our world system. And so, what an individual can do is just listen to the voice of the person that is in lack, for lack of a better word, and I just, for me, going back to Sarah's original, those essential workers that are low wage earners, the wages need to be increased, and so that is something that corporations, can do individually, but that needs to change within our system, our world system, our government, and so I like I said, it's layers and layers and layers, and going back to those 3 words, I see you, I hear you, and then implementing what they see and what they hear from those individuals. It has to be implementation. It's not enough just to sit around the table and listen to people, but they have to put those into practice, and that's when change will be made.
I love that. And I want to add, you said, I hear you, I see you. And I'd like to add a 3rd thing here by saying, how can I help? By creating the space for that question, allows, I guess, the other person to tell you how you can help, right? So I think I love those 3 things. Like, I see you, I hear you, how can I help, is powerful just in and of themselves. But I'd also like to say to women of color that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to show up and say, I'm not comfortable, right? Because it's going to take both sides to come to the conversation, right? And it's uncomfortable for both sides, because we are having to do things we've never had to address out loud before. We always used to take it home with us and try and process it that way and internalize it. But putting something on the table and saying, hey, something's not right here, can we talk about it, in and of itself is so courageous. But I feel like that's what it's going to take to get the conversation going. What are you thinking, Ingrid?
I agree with that, and I would like to add, like, and I don't have the answer, but like, besides everything you and Bernice said, is like creating opportunities for people to grow professionally. That would be like the action part to that whole equation.
That's good. That's good. I think I would like to pose our final question here to everybody who wants to jump on in. But what is it that, as 2 women of color, right? There are 3 of us on here, but for the 2 of you, I'd like to ask, looking back now from where you're at, who you've become, looking back, what is it that you would tell your 21, 22-year-old self as you're starting out in this world of career? What would you tell that person, knowing what you know now? So I'm going to leave that with you. So take a minute to ponder it if you haven't already. And then I think there are a lot of recent graduates who's looking out. They've done the work, they've checked all the boxes, they got their degree, and they're having to step out in this crazy world right now, who are listening and who I think would take something valuable with them from this conversation.
To me, number one is be true to yourself. One expression that my 15-year-old taught me that we don't have in Spanish is you do you. And I made that my phrase, you know, like you do you. Just be true to yourself. Listen to that voice inside of you and be true to yourself. Because when you're not, you're gonna have to have years of unbecoming. And it comes later in life. I have gone through that. So be true to yourself. And it sounds very like, what's the word? It sounds like just know that you can do whatever you set your mind to. Is you put on the work, you can do whatever you want to. So those two things basically for me.
Love it. Thank you.
I would tell my 21-year-old self to give yourself some grace. You know, be kind to yourself with your words and your actions, and don't be afraid. Don't accept fear. Period. Don't attach fear to your DNA. It's not a part of who you are. Be bold enough to explore. And if you explore, go back to what I said at first. And if that you make a mistake, give yourself some grace. You know, you're in the learning. You know, your 20s, you're learning yourself. Yeah, I'm so different from who I am. You know, I'm 45, and so at 45, I'm different from who I was at 21. And so I would have liked for her to have given herself some grace.
Yeah. Beautiful. Good stuff. Well, this has been a truly rich conversation. I'm so full and satisfied and complete. Thank you all so very much. Any parting words that you might want to share before we will go to Sarah to say goodbye, and then Judd will close us out. But any parting words that you would like to share with the rest of us before we go?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So I'm grateful for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you so very much, Ingrid.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. I would like to just say something. And also, you know, Ida, that imposter syndrome that we spoke about. You know, as women, yes, as women, because I wrote it down as well too, because that, you know, hit me. If you are in the space, if you are physically in the space, you are supposed to be there. So we as women, we have to stop doing that to ourselves, thinking that we are not supposed to be in a space. If you are physically there, you are supposed to be there. You have a right to be there. So own your space, define yourself so that no one else can put a definition on you. That's why I introduce myself, my name, what I do, and how I define myself. And so, and I live up to that definition. And so own your space, be in your space and own it, because it's yours and no one can take it away from you unless you give it away.
Beautiful, beautiful. We also have some feedback from Al, who joined us in this conversation. Welcome, Al, and thank you for being here. Do you want to share with us verbally, or should I just read it out?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so Al wrote, "Let excellence be your brand. When you are excellent, you become unforgettable. Doing the right thing even when nobody knows you're doing the right thing, will always bring the right thing to you. I was raised to believe that excellence is the best deterrent to racism or sexism, by Oprah Winfrey. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you so much.
That's beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you, Al. Any parting words from you, Miss Sarah?
Yes, Bernice, I love what you said, that if you're in a space, you're supposed to be there and own it. And that kind of segues into what my words to my 21-year-old self would be, is to know your worth and know you're here for a reason and a purpose, that you are a child of God or a child of the universe, whatever you believe in, that there is a greater power out there that connects us all. And that power wants you to be amazing and to do amazing things and to do amazing things in the world and to help people. And once you're open to that and open to places that you're in, people that come into your life, situations that come in, and you rise to those challenges, you can do anything. And I wish I had learned that when I was a lot younger. I'm still learning it now. I don't think I still fully believe it, but man, it changes your whole perspective when you realize that your life really does have meaning.
Powerful.
And what you put out there in the universe is going to come right back at you. So put good stuff out there. Yeah. And the other thing I would tell my 21-year-old self is to have more fun, because I have to tell myself that still at 45. Have more fun. Enjoy life. Quit taking everything so seriously.
You know who to call sometimes.
Yeah, sure. My 21-year-old self found herself on her birthday in a transgender club somewhere downtown London. Don't ask questions, people. Okay. And I would tell myself, again, backing up what Bernice said, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Because even when you're in that situation, when it's yucky or great or whatever, you're not going to be able to encompass the entire experience while you're in the experience. It's only when you get through it to the other side of it and look back, you go, that's why I needed that, because it has taught me this. This is the tool that's in my backpack, right? So I can't agree anymore. I think we are all on the same page. I'm in great company. I want to invite you back for more conversations, as well as just participate every Wednesday, 3 o'clock. We will have a couple of weeks over the July 4th week and the week to follow, where we'll have recordings playing, because everybody's going to shut down, I believe, just mentally. But going forward, yes, more of this, yes, please. Jad, I will leave it to you to close us out. Thank you both, Ingrid, Bernice. Oh my goodness, I can't thank you enough. No, we're best friends.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're sisters now. It's done. Jad, I'll let you shut us out. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you all. This was just a joy to witness, and the only thing I would say is how we started. I see you, and you're beautiful and powerful and amazing. As I said last week, it's a joy to be surrounded by badass women, and I'm gonna make sure my daughter and my sons get on the call in the future so they can witness it as well. So thank you all so much. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we're for LULAB, we're looking at 5 maps that we have to know to do social change. So there are 5 really integral maps that we can use to change the world. And so we'll be looking at those 5 maps tomorrow. And then Friday at 3 o'clock is our Enneagram community. And we're going to be looking at the gut triad, the 8, the 9, and the 1. And those have been great conversations. So if you want to learn about the Enneagram, join us on Friday at 3 o'clock. Thank you all so much for being on. And those that joined us on Facebook and on Zoom, appreciate you joining in. And we'll have a beautiful rest of the day, and we'll see you online in future days. Thank you all. Peace.
Thank you. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.